Have you ever wondered why some people secretly wish summer would end? While everyone around them is planning vacations, enjoying barbecues, and posting sunny beach photos online, they're counting the days until cooler weather returns. At first, it doesn't make sense. Summer is supposed to be the happiest season of the year. It's the season of freedom, adventure, long evenings, family gatherings, laughter. At least that's what we've been taught to believe. But for some people, the arrival of summer doesn't bring excitement. It brings a feeling they can't explain, a quiet sadness, a strange sense of discomfort, sometimes even anxiety. The surprising part is that many of them don't even know why they feel this way. They simply assume they don't like hot weather. But what if the heat isn't the real reason? What if summer is only reminding the brain of something much older, something hidden beneath years of forgotten memories? Every year, the same pattern begins. The days become brighter, the temperature rises, people start talking about vacations. Children play outside until sunset, neighbors gather in their gardens. Social media fills with smiling faces, blue skies, and perfect holiday pictures. To everyone else, summer feels alive. But for someone carrying invisible emotional memories, the same sunshine can feel completely different. Instead of feeling energized, they become quieter. Instead of making plans, they cancel them. Instead of looking forward to the weekend, they stay inside. They can't explain it. Nothing terrible has happened. Life seems normal. Yet something inside begins to feel heavy. Many people assume this means they're lazy, or antisocial, or simply in a bad mood. But the human mind rarely works that way. Our emotions are often connected to experiences we no longer consciously remember. The brain is constantly making associations. It remembers sounds, smells, places, weather, even seasons. Sometimes those connections become so strong that years later, a familiar season can trigger emotions without us realizing where they came from. That's exactly what happens to more people than you might imagine. Imagine a child during summer vacation. School has ended, friends leave town with their families, parents spend long hours at work. The neighborhood becomes quiet. Every afternoon feels the same. Looking out the window, waiting for someone to knock on the door, hoping today will be different. Sometimes no one comes. Tomorrow becomes next week becomes the entire summer. Children don't analyze experiences the way adults do. They don't think, I'm developing emotional patterns that will follow me into adulthood. They simply feel loneliness, disappointment, silence. And the brain quietly stores every one of those emotions. Without anyone noticing, summer slowly becomes connected with being alone. Years pass, life changes, school ends, a career begins, new responsibilities appear, old memories fade. At least that's what it feels like, because although the memories disappear, the emotional associations often remain. Then one June morning arrives. The sun is shining, birds are singing, everyone around seems excited. But deep inside, something feels wrong. Not because of today, but because the brain has quietly reopened an emotional file created many years ago. A file that says summer isn't safe, not physically, emotionally. And without understanding why, that old feeling returns once again. One afternoon, while walking through a local park, something unexpected happens. Children are laughing, water fountains splash across the playground, parents are smiling as they watch their families enjoy the sunshine. Everything looks beautiful. Everything should feel comforting. Instead, a strange sadness begins to grow. Not because anything bad is happening, but because the scene feels painfully familiar. It's almost as if the mind has traveled backward in time. Without warning, forgotten emotions begin rising to the surface, not as memories, but as feelings that have been waiting quietly for years. For the rest of that day, the feeling refused to disappear. No matter where the mind wandered, something felt unfinished. That evening, while cleaning a closet, an old cardboard box was discovered. Inside were childhood drawings, faded greeting cards, school notebooks, and stacks of old family photographs. Most of them brought smiles, birthday cakes, school plays, holiday dinners. Then one photograph stopped everything. It showed a small child sitting alone on a wooden park bench. The sun was bright, the sky was clear, the playground behind was full of children laughing together. But the child wasn't playing. The child was simply waiting. Suddenly, memories that had been buried for years began returning. Not all at once, just small pieces. Long summer afternoons, watching other children ride bicycles together. Hearing promises like, "We'll come tomorrow, maybe next weekend, we'll play later." Sometimes those promises were kept. Many times they weren't. Day after day, hope slowly turned into disappointment. Without realizing it, the brain began linking summer with waiting. Waiting to be included, waiting for someone to arrive, waiting to feel less alone. This is something psychologists often observe. The brain isn't designed to remember only facts. Its primary job is to protect us. To do that, it stores emotional experiences and looks for patterns. If something painful happens repeatedly in a similar environment, the brain begins treating that environment as emotionally significant. It's called associative learning. A season, a sound, a smell, even warm sunshine can become connected to emotions experienced years earlier. That's why one song can suddenly bring tears to someone's eyes, why the smell of sunscreen can remind someone of childhood, why the first hot day of the year can create sadness without any obvious reason. The season isn't causing the emotion, it's unlocking it. For years, the feeling had been misunderstood. It seemed like summer itself was the problem. The heat, the bright sunlight, the crowded parks. But those things were only reminders. The real story had begun decades earlier, and because those emotions had never been understood, they continued repeating every year. The mind wasn't trying to create suffering. It was trying to protect something that once felt deeply painful. Many people experience something similar. Some dislike rainy days because they remind them of difficult moments. Others become anxious during the holidays because those seasons bring back memories of conflict or loss. For some, winter feels lonely. For others, spring brings sadness. Our emotional world is filled with invisible connections that often operate without our awareness. That's why two people can experience the exact same summer afternoon in completely different ways. One feels joy, the other feels exhaustion. Neither reaction is wrong. They're simply shaped by different emotional histories. Over the following weeks, something began to change. Instead of criticizing those uncomfortable feelings, curiosity replaced judgment. Questions appeared. Why do I feel this way? When did this begin? What is my mind trying to tell me? Those questions opened a door that had been closed for years. The goal was no longer to force happiness. The goal became understanding, and understanding slowly reduced the fear, because emotions become much less frightening when we know where they come from. One evening, while watching the sunset from a quiet park bench, something unexpected happened. Children were still laughing nearby. Families were still enjoying the warm evening. But this time, the scene felt different. Instead of seeing proof that everyone else was happier, there was compassion. Compassion for the child who had spent so many summers believing that being forgotten meant not being important. Looking back now, the truth became clear. That child had never been unwanted. Life had simply been complicated. Parents had worked hard to provide for the family. Friends had their own lives.
Broken promises weren't always intentional, but a child's brain couldn't understand those adult realities. It only understood the feeling of being left behind, and that feeling quietly became part of every summer that followed. For the first time, the past wasn't being relived, it was finally being understood.
Understanding the past didn't erase those memories overnight. The warm weather didn't suddenly become comfortable. Summer didn't magically transform into a favorite season, but something important had changed. The emotions finally made sense, and when emotions make sense, they begin to lose the power they've held for years. Instead of asking, "Why am I like this?" a different question appeared. What does this feeling want me to understand? That single question changed everything, because emotions are not enemies, they're messages. Sometimes they're protecting us. Sometimes they're reminding us of something we've never fully healed. And sometimes they're simply asking us to pay attention. Little by little, new experiences began replacing old ones. Instead of spending every sunny weekend indoors, short evening walks became part of the routine. Not because there was a sudden love for summer, but because healing doesn't happen through one dramatic moment. It happens through small, gentle choices repeated over time. A walk through the neighborhood, reading a book beneath a tree, watching a sunset without rushing home, saying yes to a simple invitation for coffee. Each new experience quietly told the brain something different. Summer is no longer the same as it was years ago. You're not that lonely child anymore. You're safe now. This is one of the most remarkable abilities of the human brain. Psychologists call it neuroplasticity, our brain's ability to form new patterns throughout life. The emotional associations we develop in childhood can be powerful, but they are not permanent. With understanding, patience, and new experiences, the brain can gradually rewrite old emotional connections. The season doesn't change, the weather doesn't change, but the meaning we attach to those experiences can. And when the meaning changes, our emotional response often changes with it. Perhaps this story isn't really about summer. Perhaps it's about all the invisible emotional patterns we carry through life. Maybe someone avoids birthdays because they remind them of feeling forgotten. Maybe another person dislikes weekends because they once felt isolated while everyone else seemed happy. Maybe holidays bring anxiety instead of joy. Or maybe, every time summer arrives, an old feeling quietly returns without any obvious explanation. If that's ever happened to you, know this: you're not strange, you're not weak, and you're certainly not alone. Our minds are shaped by experiences we often don't even remember. Understanding those experiences is not about blaming the past, it's about freeing ourselves from repeating it. As another summer morning arrived, something felt different. The sunlight streamed through the window just as it always had. Birds sang outside, children laughed somewhere in the distance. For the first time in years, there wasn't an urge to hide from the season. There wasn't pressure to force happiness either. There was simply acceptance. Summer didn't have to become a favorite season. It just didn't have to feel like an old wound anymore. Sometimes healing isn't about loving what once hurt you. Sometimes it's simply about no longer letting the past decide how you feel today. And perhaps that's one of the greatest forms of emotional freedom. So, if you know someone who says they hate summer, try not to judge them too quickly. It may have nothing to do with sunshine, heat, or crowded beaches. Sometimes, the seasons we dislike are carrying stories we've never told. Stories of loneliness, disappointment, loss, or memories quietly waiting to be understood. A little kindness, a little patience, and one genuine conversation can sometimes help someone begin a journey they've been waiting years to start. Because behind every emotion, there is usually a story, and behind every story, there is an opportunity to heal. Thank you for watching Emotional Blueprint. If this story helped you understand yourself or someone you care about a little better, please subscribe to Emotional Blueprint and turn on notifications so you never miss a new psychology story. Every week,
we explore the hidden patterns behind human thoughts, emotions, and behavior through powerful story-driven videos designed to help you better understand yourself and the people around you.